So how would you like me to participate in this survey?
Well, we need clearly some advice about sampling techniques, who to sample, how to go about it, some input on the questions. How do you do it? We've never done this kind of thing.
Okay.
We haven't quite figured out what we're going to do with the information once we've had it, but we're kind of, how do we get it? How do we go about doing it?
So it sounds like it's in two parts. You'd like some advice about how to set up the survey and some options about how to conduct it, maybe how to sample. That's fine. I'm happy to do that. Another thing we can discuss is whether you'd like our center to participate in processing and analyzing the data, because it sounds like your committee hasn't quite gone far enough to discuss that.
Our committee, there's a medical doctor who is the medical director, in fact, is in charge of our committee. And even though we have these concerns, we haven't quite got to figure out what we're going to do with this data once we have it. And I think that probably we're going to need your expert advice in that process.
Well, I can develop an estimate for you that includes just the advising and also the more involved participation, which would take, say, the processing of the questionnaire all the way through to the analysis, because our center does have a fair amount of experience with that. Now, the advising would be free of charge because our two units have an agreement with each other. The processing part would have to be on a fee basis, and I know your budget's limited,
Well,
so...
Do you know how much would that fee be?
What I can do is give you our standard charge sheets and give you an estimate of how that would take place.
That would be very helpful. So we would be using you in that capacity, and then we'd have some kind of cost, per hour basis, or is
it's generally an hourly basis,
okay,
where I try to give you a total cost and then stay within that total unless something really unanticipated happens. One option we have is to involve one of our student interns in the project. Now the cost would go down because I wouldn't charge for the intern's time or for my direct supervising time.
We have a lot of information that's very private from our clients. I would be very concerned about, some of that being compromised.
Well, it may not be appropriate. I can show you what our student interns sign when they start working for the center to protect the confidentiality of clients' data. And if you'd like to change the wording or provide any other stipulations, we'd be glad to do it under those circumstances, or not do it at all. You would lower the cost, and it would probably increase the time frame of the project just because the students are learning. The other thing to keep in mind is that a student intern would need to report their project to their supervisor or maybe to a class, and so they may want to use some version of the information from your survey in their class. So again, you'd have to think about the use of information from your survey in that way.
But that's sort of general information. It's not specific information about particularly patients and clients.
I mean, this may not be appropriate, and just consider it as an option, and I can write it up in both ways so you can see what the
I'll bring it up to the
trade-offs
committee,
are.
certainly.
Certainly. The other stipulation is if our center gets involved in the processing and analysis, I would like to be involved in developing the questionnaire also.
Oh, sure. I understand that.
All right. It just ensures the quality all the way down the line, that we have understood how the questions are written and how the answers are written so that we can actually analyze the data and produce something.
You've seen our questionnaire.
Well, they all look like that at the start.
Okay.
So you get everybody's wish list and then you go from there.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So in terms of things that I need to do, I need to develop some estimates for you and consider advice about a sampling scheme and how you might go about conducting this survey, particularly reaching the international students in a budget-friendly kind of way. From your point of view, I've asked you about specific figures for the populations, the subgroups of interest, and then if it's feasible to do some kind of electronic random sample from the whole student body population.
Excellent.
So maybe you could email me that later in the week, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can.
Fantastic. This has been very helpful. I have a full report I can bring back, and we have the information I think we need to go ahead and make the decisions we need to make.
Is there anything else that you think we should cover here?
No, I think that that just about covers it.
Okay. Well, I think I
Excellent.
got what I want too.
Excellent.
All right. Very good.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming.
Bye now.
Note how the consultant focused on a number of issues such as her role as advisor about the design of the survey, the potential costs of the project, and the role of students. You notice that she paraphrases and summarizes throughout the discussion, and she summarizes the decisions to be made and tasks to be completed before the next meeting. The consultant wraps up the interview in the way that she began, by making good eye contact and giving a warm goodbye. In this next segment, the consultant and client have completed the tasks agreed upon in the initial meeting. Let's look in on this meeting as our consultant delivers some statistical information to the client. Pay attention to the consultant's communication skills. Does she effectively convey the information?